Your premium sleeping bag probably has a bold temperature rating printed on the side. Maybe 0 degrees, maybe 20 below. But that number is lying to you. Look at this sterile, controlled lab setup. This is how those ratings are actually tested, with motionless mannequins sitting inside windless rooms. The real outdoors is completely different. When your expensive gear stops working out in the wild, you don't get your money back. You get hypothermia. In the winter of 1950, soldiers in the Korean War walked into the ultimate environmental stress test. They faced negative 40-degree winds that froze exposed skin solid in under 60 seconds. This soldier is relying on standard-issue military bedding, and in Korea, that gear completely failed. Men died in their sleep, not from enemy bullets, but from the freezing air cutting right through their bags. Yet a specific group of these soldiers managed to wake up alive, while men in better gear did not. And they survived using a trick that required zero military innovation. They lined their jackets, boots, and sleeping bags with ordinary daily newspapers. Nature doesn't care about a manufacturer's suggested retail price or a research budget. It only respects the raw laws of physics. The first rule of insulation is that your coat doesn't actually produce heat. It only traps the heat your body is already generating. High-end down constructs a web of microscopic pockets holding tiny barriers of unmoving air. That dead air is the actual insulator. Newspaper fibers possess identical capability. Crumpling it creates a chaotic three-dimensional matrix, drastically increasing microgaps to hold body heat. Synthetic foam loses its insulating value because it simply compresses flat under your body weight. Crumpled paper acts like a rigid spring, pushing back and maintaining those empty air gaps. On a thermodynamic level, a $400 expedition bag and a pile of crumpled garbage are executing the exact same physical task. Look at this stack of reading material. You can't just slide flat magazines and papers directly into your coat. A flat sheet has almost zero dead air volume. You have to prepare it. You take each individual page and crush it into a loose, airy ball. Then you build out your matrix. You start by padding the bottom of your sleeping bag because the frozen ground steals heat faster than the air. Once the ground is blocked, you pack the sides and finally the top. The U.S. Army later tested this improvised setup and found with this paper matrix added an additional 10 to 15 degrees of life-saving warmth to a failing sleeping bag. But freezing temperatures aren't the only threat in deep winter. The secondary killer is your own sweat. When standard sleeping bags get wet from body moisture, their synthetic fills start to fail. If you're using premium goose down, it completely collapses into a useless clump. Paper has a counterintuitive chemical advantage here. Because it's pure cellulose, it naturally wicks moisture away from the body. The outer sheets might get damp, but the core layer against your skin stays dry enough to work. This discarded trash actively managed sweat while maintaining a thermal barrier, solving the dual threat of freezing air and trapped moisture better than the engineered gear of the era. You don't have to look to a 1950s battlefield to see this principle in action. You just have to look at the freezing concrete of any modern city. Notice the layered, improvised insulation on this man. When homeless populations line their coats with crumpled newspaper or sleep on thick cardboard, they are applying the exact same laws of thermodynamics to survive the winter. Society often looks at this and sees only the desperation of poverty. But from an engineering standpoint, you are looking at a nightly, rigorous field test of applied physics. Look closely at this fibrous moss. Indigenous populations successfully utilized materials exactly like this, along with dried grass, for millennia. It's the exact same chaotic structure, doing the exact same job, and the math scales perfectly. Warmth acts like a volume knob. If you want more heat, you just add more material to trap more air. The outdoor industry wants you to believe that surviving extreme emissions requires their latest product. But survival comes down to trapping dead air, and the universe doesn't care if you trap it with premium goose down or yesterday's news.